Hey, welcome to another episode of the Local Marketing Beat, brought to you by Overall, the only location marketing platform that connects your digital presence to revenue. Our guest today is Sarah Cucchiara, Vice President of Client Success at Tiger Pistol. For more than 2 decades, Sarah has worked with large national companies and local small businesses to develop cross-channel marketing and advertising programs, which is super exciting because we have not talked that much in previous episodes on advertising. She has experience in both B2C and B2B companies. So she develops strategies, campaigns, and tactics, which is really why I want to pick her brain today and ask her a lot of the questions that you're probably wondering as well. So what's on the beat on the local marketing street this month? Let's get into it. Welcome to the show, Sarah. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're excited about this episode because we have not really talked about local advertising. We've done a lot of AI search lately, all the things that are going on. But when it comes to local advertising, I think there's a big opportunity for brands, for local brands and retailers or whatever that may be, right? Why don't we start with telling us a little bit about you? What does a day at, in your role at Tiger Pistol looks like? And what is, I heard that you just came back from vacation. How was that? So tell us a little bit about that.
Vacation was wonderful. I have 3 teenagers, one that is getting ready to go to college for the first time. So it was great to get away. We went to Colorado into the
Yeah.
mountains. So
Oh,
it was
beautiful.
nice. Yeah, it was nice to see my kids disconnected from their phones and smiling and out in nature. So it was very refreshing. I didn't turn on a TV, have no idea what happened in the world last week. So it was wonderful, wonderful. But I'm back in the office this week. And so a day in the life of me at Tiger Pistol is interesting. I love it when I get this question because I have a really not a great answer for it. Every day is different. I will say that there are 2 things that I know that I do every day. And one is that I work with our client managers to ensure that we are doing the best we can to provide value to our clients. So I'm working with them, answering questions, helping them to, find data, to talk to our clients about strategy. So I'm touching our clients every day, either through our client managers or directly with them, just talking about their programs. Second is I help manage our support team. And so I stay very connected with them, really wanting to understand our clients' experience in the software. It's critically important that it's an easy to use platform, that they're not having any challenges. So it's really important for me to understand their experience so that I can work with our product teams, with our client management teams to ensure we're, again, providing great value, a great experience for them. And then lastly, I'm in Excel all the time. I have a serious problem, and I am in Excel or Sheets constantly. It's kind of a joke within the organization that I'm going to ask for data and put it in pivot tables. So I'm very data driven, love my charts and graphs, but that's kind of a day in the life of me.
That's awesome, and thank you for sharing. But that kind of reminds me of me because when I'm looking at data or analytics on a platform, I can't really understand it unless I export it and put it on a sheet, and then that's when like, oh, okay, well I can see it now. I don't know why. I guess we just get used to those spreadsheets.
Well, and I'm a visual person, so I like to chart and graph everything. So I like to see the trends, compare it in a visual way. I just can't look at a set of numbers and meaningfully get the data out of it. For me, it's all about charts and pivots and trying to look at those relationships. So it's all about the charts for me. I'm not
So
gonna lie.
speaking about all these things that keep changing, right, on the AI side of things, I still think that local or hyper local ads, it's a big opportunity for advertisers, for local brands. And obviously Tiger Pistol being a partner overall, and I've seen the product, I've seen the capabilities, it's just amazing, right? It's like being able to run national campaigns at the local level with local targeting is fascinating. So why don't you help us or help the audience unpack, right? What are these hyper local ads and what is the significance in what we're living today on the marketing space?
Yeah. So I think starting with what is hyper local and what does that mean is like level setting on what how I defined hyperlocal social advertising. And for me, it's a couple of attributes that are really important. One is that it's geographically targeted. I mean, we're talking about a geography around a location of 2, 5, 10 miles. If you're a service-based and business, it may be a parts of a city, or if you're a dealer that has a very strict territory, it's your zip codes. But it's a geographically targeted and usually a pretty tightly targeted area in which you're doing business. Your community is what we're trying to target. Second, it's about that relevance. So whether you call it personalization or localization, it's how do we make that messaging relevant for your community? And that can be everything from it's my address, it's my phone number, it's my call to action as a link to my specific store page or my website as an owner. It can include in the copy a reference to where I'm located in a strip mall or a landmark nearby, or even a local event, a Super Bowl win, a high school, football win, whatever. It's all about how do you create that local connection, that local relevancy within that larger brand messaging is really critically important. And again, that goes then to the second piece around those call to actions. That action is actually taking me to that local business to take that next step, that next action. When we think about national, it's a lot of times about driving awareness. And I may be going to a website where I'm getting more information. I have to go to a store directory. That's not what local's about.
Right.
Local is really about driving that action that's going to result in a sale, revenue. That's what we're trying to do for that local owner, whether they're a franchisee, a store manager, a dealer, even an SMB that works with our reseller clients. They're trying to drive revenue. And so how do we help them do that with that local spend, those local budgets, through these types of ads? So those are kind of the three things that I think are critically important
Hmm.
for how I would define local social and how I would say we build local social programs for our clients.
I'm very curious to hear a little bit more about what you just said, right? Because these franchises and national brands, they're running advertising at the national level. When in your experience, how is the overall ad performance? Like what's the difference on the impact, right? Especially we could talk about revenue. You mentioned national tends to be more brand awareness versus local tends to be more ROI focused. What's the ideal positioning there when you're talking to a client or a partner? Is it a good thing to mix them up? Like, hey, you got to keep some awareness and some local, or is it all like just go hyper local and put it all in there? What does that look like?
Yeah, great question. You need both, right? That funnel is tall. It's not just, the bottom of the funnel that we've
And it
really
keeps
got to,
getting taller and
yeah,
taller, by the way.
and
It's
more
crazy.
complicated and more
Yes.
touch points that just make this customer journey is spaghetti right now. That's not linear anymore. But yes, you're right. We need both. And really what we see, if I take the franchise model, it's an easy model to think about. You've got this brand that is getting an investment from the franchise group. They're paying into this marketing fund that they, are relying on it to drive that awareness, to fund great creative, great messaging, promotions. All of those things are why you become a franchisee and get involved with a brand. But those individual owners also have to put some money back into their own marketing. They're required to spend in their local markets. And so, you've got they want to make sure that money is going to their individual store. They don't want to necessarily pay into regional buys or, they're already paying into a national fund. So it's important for them that that money comes back to them. So that's great in one sense in that you're creating a lot of local or national brand awareness. You trying to get buy-in at that local level for your franchisees to spend that money in relevant, meaningful, well-performing channels, right? So you need both. I think where we see challenges is when you try to apply that national strategy to local. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where I think
Yeah.
we get tripped up sometimes in that we're thinking about smaller budgets. When you think about the average budget for, a local owner, it's much smaller than you're thinking
Yeah.
about from a national level. And actually, when I got started in the space, in the local software space, local marketing software space about 10 years ago, I've worked for large companies, managed really large budgets on the agency side and the client side. And I was in a meeting and a stakeholder was talking about, a $2,500 budget per location. And I got off the call and I was talking to my boss and I'm like, what are we going to do for $2,500 a month? Like, that's
Right.
ridiculous. And he's like, Sarah, that's for the year. And I fell out of my chair. I was
Whoa.
like, what? What? And when I pulled myself up off the floor, I was like, this is a great puzzle. This is a great challenge to try to figure out how do we help these small business owners drive meaningful results, drive revenue with these small budgets. And that's the puzzle that I've been trying to help solve over the past 10 years. And what we see is social is a great way to do that. I mean, it's just the way that we produce results, the way that, all of these pieces work together from a local perspective, from your campaign messaging, even on the engine side, when we think about Meta, they're rewarding local. They reward local and better costs because they know they perform. They have a ton of data around, how local performs well. So they're rewarding you with better pricing because you're running from a local page. You're a local business with a local page. You're focused, around a geography that's super relevant to your business. And then if you have the call to actions that are driving back to your location, they know those conversion rates are going to be there. And so it kind of all works really beautifully together. When
Yeah.
you've got it executed right, you can really drive great value for both the parent brand and for those local owners. So that's what we see. And the other piece that I think is interesting, I think you asked, what does this look like in a bigger picture? Those clients of ours that are looking at return, ROAS, purchases driven from this channel are seeing that when executed well, this local social channel is one of their top performing channels. So we're
Wow.
seeing higher conversion rates, higher purchases, higher purchase value, all of those pieces that, they start to compare national to local to, other channels like search or maybe even traditional TV. This is one of the top performing channels. And it's great because it's something that both your local market is participating in and you're all seeing value from what these types of programs can produce.
Yeah, and I guess it makes sense because as a consumer, when you're watching ads, right, and you see these big names, you don't really think about HQ. You don't think about like the locations in the other. Like I think about the local ones that I go that are around the block, right, and
Right.
I think about the employees that greet me, and I think about my experience at the local level. So I guess it totally makes sense. But I like your approach of like there has to be a mix, right? It's just not one way or the other because I mean, if you just go local, you don't have that awareness that you need.
No.
But if you
Right.
just go awareness, you don't have that conversion hyper localized ads. So, I mean, it sounds like a great strategy. Now, what if we flip the page and we talk about the pitfalls, right? As like, how can this go wrong? Or what are some of the things that you see often that, retailers and advertisers are doing that could do better?
Right. So I think one of the reasons why we're around is that every franchise group that I've ever talked to has that one franchisee that's going to go rogue. They're just going to do something.
Yeah.
They're going to put their dog in an ad. They're going to, do something completely off brand. They're going to get into a channel that makes zero sense. And so you've got this kind of friction that's constantly in place, especially in like this franchise model and sometimes in these dealer models in which, the brand wants to control the messaging, but
Yeah.
the franchisees have, skin in the game and they're actually investing in some of this marketing, but they're not marketers, right? And
Right.
so, how do we help take away friction? How do we help make advertising really locally relevant? How do we help both sides accomplish their goals? Is really, where we should be focused. So I think the pitfalls are not doing it, just not doing it because you don't want to
Yeah.
deal with it, right? From a
Right.
brand perspective. I think that providing a tool that makes it easy. I think making sure you've got really good assets that can be localized in ways that are meaningful and easy for your franchisees are important. I think understanding your media strategy. So we just talked about top of funnel, bottom of funnel. The other
Yeah.
things to think about are, oh, you've got small budgets, you've got a limited number of eyeballs within a geographical area. But you can't apply that media strategy that's at the national level of, I'm going to do a bunch of tests and a bunch of ad variations. The more you fragment that budget, I think you really lose out on optimization opportunities. So you've got to kind of change your mindset of local's good. Collaborating with my local partners is good, can be
Yeah.
really good and really meaningful. I just have to have the right tools in place to help us both be successful. So that's where I think we see some big pitfalls, is either too much control and I'm not going to give you any local, I'm just going to run my national at the local level. That doesn't work well. Not providing the right tools and letting franchisees go rogue rarely works well, right?
Yeah.
So finding that really good balance and a way to again help both sides be successful, remove friction, remove intimidation. I mean, this stuff is intimidating for people who don't understand marketing, and then sharing in the success, really helping everyone understand, what are the meaningful KPIs? What do those mean for me? And at the end of the day, what am I getting out of this, whether it's revenue or something else? Yeah.
The as we are talking about the hyper local and a local budget, which is a complete different animal than nationwide.
Yeah.
What does it take to be successful? To have these campaigns, have a positive return on their investment, or I guess in my mind, it's like you gotta get creative, right? Because you don't have unlimited budget; you have very limited. It's not that you can launch 100 tests a day because you're gonna blow through your budget real quick. So, what does that look like? Do you have any tips or insights that you can share out? How do you make these smaller budget campaigns profitable and positive ROI?
Right. So I think it goes back to some just marketing fundamentals, to be completely honest. One is, what are you trying to do? Like, how do you define success? At the end of the day, we all want to drive revenue.
Yeah,
I think that's what most of us want to
that's what
do.
that's what we're hoping for, right?
Yeah, right. But sometimes I can't tell you if this specific campaign is driving revenue, right? As one of the questions we get a lot as we're pitching or talking to clients is like, can you tell me the ROI of my campaigns? And my question back is, can you get purchase data? And they'll say no. And I'm like, well, I can't tell you the ROI. So I think it's defining what is your goal? How do you define success? And do you have the data to help you measure that? If not, there are other conversions, there are other metrics that might be indicators that help us get there. But I think number one is defining what are you trying to accomplish with the program. Most of us, it's revenue. Then it's really thinking about how do we take that brand messaging and make it relevant locally where we're driving that next step to a purchase. And a lot of times we're using those national messages. We're just including those local elements I talked about.
Hmm.
You're going directly to my page, my specific store page, my ordering menu, my ordering, in the app. Um, or you're including that reference to where I'm located. I'm in Kansas City. So including that in that ad copy, even maybe layering some of that information into the media and the ad, all of those that can make it feel like you're talking to your own community helps. So it's not like you're revolutionizing, you're blowing up your campaign or your marketing calendar. You're just finding ways to layer in some of these nuanced local elements that again make it relevant and then really drive that call to action, really driving that next step to purchase. I think those are all the things that make something successful. So I'm going to talk about success in two different ways because we look at it in two different ways. One is that first part, I'm going to drive revenue. The second piece for success is to get buy-in and buy-in at that local level. Can I help my local owners realize success in these different channels? So specifically for social for us. And what we see is the more that we share those relevant data points, one that they can see my dollar, I pay $1, I get $2 back. That's incredibly powerful. With this, as
Hmm.
soon as our clients include purchase data in their dashboards, usage and participation goes up. They're like, okay, I get it. I get it.
They get it.
The
Yeah.
other thing is making it simple. We try to simplify everything. Like a franchisee comes in, picks a campaign, they do 5 things real quick in a stepper and they're done. How do we take away the intimidation, the friction, give them, I call it Super Bowl ready, creative, that they can then go tap into, they're not having to think about it, right? Just, I'm going to tell you what my budget is and I'm going to go. So I think that those elements create advocates, and these guys
Hmm.
talk to each other. And the more that you can get them participating with their own dollars, gives you more awareness in the marketplace, right? It's kind of a no-brainer from a national level. If I can get them to buy into really strong tactics, it just amplifies what I'm doing nationally. And so those are the things that I think are critically important.
Now, the marketing space has been changing a lot, right? Especially in AI search, but I feel like it's coming to social. We were just talking about TikTok AI, right? Giving you now results and recommendations. Are there any exciting things in the local advertising that gets you excited right now, that it's pumping you, or any visions for the future to what's coming to that maybe brands need to know about?
Yeah. So I'm going to start with the ones that are pretty well known. Meta is
Okay.
investing a lot in AI within their
Yes.
advertising engine. Zuckerberg came out and said that in 2026, you just have to tell Meta your objective and a budget, and they're going to go do it all for you. I don't
Wow.
believe that that's a reality for
Yeah. Yeah.
2026, honestly. Don't believe that that's a great reality for SMBs, whether that's a franchise organization or an actual small business owner. I'm an independent small business owner. I don't think that's a reality in 2026. But I do believe that they're doing some fantastic work behind the scenes when we think about targeting and getting the right consumer, your ad in front of the right consumer. We've seen a lot of work done. I think if you can help the algorithms pinpoint your audience faster, the results just continue to get better. So if you think about, what are my objectives? What are my optimization goals? Am I using the pixel to help define that conversion event? Am I sharing my first party data? Letting Meta's black box. I know none of us like to lose control, but there is a level that we have to let Meta go do in its black box. They're finding that audience at a much faster rate than us trying to do all this audience testing. So it's exciting, some of the things that they're doing to help create efficiencies and drive better results when we think about advertising. On the flip side of that, AI in the creative space has come a long way just in the past 6 months. So one of the biggest friction points we have with our clients, and it doesn't matter if you are a huge national brand or if you're an true SMB, it's creative, it's the media, right? It's either creating that copy, and you may have an ad agency doing that for you, and that's great. You may have an ad agency creating these beautiful ads where again, when you start to have to localize it, it becomes a challenge. You can't have a one-to-one. I create an ad for each location. I got to find ways to make that, automate that, make that more efficient. And then when you get into video, oh my
Hmm.
goodness, you're in a whole new ball game of challenges. And what we've seen in the past 6 months is huge leaps in, just higher quality production coming out of some of these AI tools. And every tool that you even look at today talks about how they have generative AI integrated into their tools. We're doing a lot of innovation around that, but also that next level of video and then local. How do we start to integrate all those pieces in using AI to create those efficiencies? And for me, that's the most exciting because that is
Yes.
the biggest friction point for our customers. This is going to be a huge unlock for local, is that media production.
Yeah, I can totally see the friction and the challenge with
Yeah.
video, which if AI can come in and solve that at scale, and now you have localized videos, that would
Yeah.
be incredible.
Yeah, it's exciting. Very
That's
exciting.
awesome. Yeah, that's very,
Yeah.
very exciting. So, Sarah, thank you so much for making the time to speak with us today. I think you really give us a lot to think about. Is there any way that people can follow you or learn more about Tiger Pistol and the overall partnership? I think for our audience, I think this is something that they should really consider, especially because search is changing so much. It's not going anywhere, but it's changing, and there has to be that mix, right? You have to have you got to be visible everywhere that your customers are.
Agreed. Agreed. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm one of few Cucchiaras, Sarah Cucchiaras out there. So if you type in Cucchiara, you'll probably find my red hair somewhere. Tigerpistol.com is our website. And then we are a partner of Uberall. So if you're an Uberall client, reach out to your account manager and we can connect for sure. Be great.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for giving us the secrets today, the secret sauce, and give us a little bit of the insights with what you've seen and what we're about to see in the future. And thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode.